John, you said you've been following the Lord here for about 20 years. Prayer played a part in your story to get to where you are today. Do you mind sharing that with us and our friends here?
Yeah, one thing we was talking about is, I grew up and I was born in Chicago, but I grew up in North Philadelphia. And I was a very, very troubled teen, always getting arrested throughout juvenile detention centers and stuff. And but across the street from me was a friend of mine. There was about 10 of us that hung out. Man, we got into trouble, but God was gracious. But my friend Troy, who lived across the street, his grandmother, she was a devout believer, and she would try to take us to church, and we would just be like, all right. And we would sit in church and we'd just go with her. But I didn't know at the time that she was praying for me.
Yeah.
Here I am, fast forward years later. This past summer, in the middle of the pandemic, we went back to Philly to visit family, and I felt the Lord saying, go back to your childhood home and just offer a prayer of thanksgiving. And so I drove back down to North Philly and, parked, and it was a very tearful moment for me. I'm looking at, this 3-story apartment, and man, all the drama I put my mom through, all the times I got shot at, being arrested. And I just, with tears in my eyes, just offered a prayer of thanksgiving. Lord, thank you for keeping me. Thank you for protecting me. As I went to go walk away, I turned around, and Troy's grandma was sitting on the stoop across the street. And I was like, I wonder if she's going to remember me. And I mean, I'm 38 now. So this was when I'm 12, 13, 14, And so I go across the street and I wave to her, and she's like, hey, and I introduce her. She was like, oh my gosh, you got bigger, gave me a hug and everything. And her grandson, who was one of my friends, he had died. He ended up, he had got arrested. He was in prison. He had an asthma attack. Troy always had an asthma problem, and he passed away. So I had heard that, but we talked a little bit about that. And I was able to share my story. Hey, I went on continuing in trouble. I ended up landing in prison, doing a 6 to 20-year prison sentence. But then the Lord saved me, and I came to faith in Christ in prison. Here's what I'm doing today. I'm a pastor. I serve with Prison Fellowship, doing prison ministry. We work with the gangs and the police department, trying to keep people like me and Troy off the street.
Yeah.
It was just a very tearful moment. And then she said to me, man, I've been praying for all my grandson's friends for all these years. And she's been in that neighborhood for over 40 years. Name isn't in bright lights. Yeah. Most people will never know her, right? But God knows her.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to her, with tears in my eyes, it was like a tearful moment. I was like, well, I trust that today the Lord is encouraging you to let you see the fruit of your prayers. Yeah. Because I haven't seen you since 1996, and we're in 2020.
Yeah.
Right? And so it was just a tearful moment for both of us, but for her to see man, at that time, he just looked like a young kid who's getting in trouble, and we tried to keep him out of stuff. But now today, he's a pastor, and he has a family, and he's serving in the community. And you just never know when you're looking at a young child, a young teen, whether it's going good or bad.
Yeah.
God's plan for them, and that was an encouragement for me with prayer as well. I walked away from talking to her and saying, John, you may not see the fruit for 30 years.